to another episode of Bula Wellness on FBC TV. I hope you have been following the program closely and that you have been adhering to all the advice being shared on Bula Wellness. I would also like to acknowledge our viewers watching today from across our beautiful nation. Now, today we'll address another important topic, and I implore you to listen carefully. We are talking about childhood obesity. The issue of obesity in Fiji children remains an important health issue. Both the World Health Organization and the Health Ministry have repeatedly sounded warnings on the non-communicable crisis stemming from obesity. WHO has repeatedly requested measures to curtail this massively growing problem in our society. Despite implementing the Best Buys policy endorsed at the UN meeting in 2011. International data and experience out of USA and UK are frightening when a rather substantial number of adults are now grossly obese. We are heading in the same route if we do not act soon. Measures in the home, in the school, to provide wholesome meals, fruit and nutritious drinks will contribute to healthier lifestyles. Local statistics indicate that 38% of our school kids are obese, while another 30% are undernourished in contrast. Statistically, that leaves only 32% in the optimal range. It remains mind-boggling that we are still doing nothing about this as parents and community. The public can assist in combating this major health and lifestyle disorder. It is in the public interest to encourage their children and the future generations to live a healthier life. We need to understand the multiple reasons which contribute directly and indirectly to childhood obesity. Let us review some of these background issues. To be better informed, to address obesity in our community, especially in our children. Historically, the supposed fat gene survived the cycles of famine while the lean type perished. These were survival issues. We had a pre-selection process into the 20th century. With advancements in science and technology, more could afford the luxuries of modern day living. Interventions like the motor vehicle, inventions like the television, the microwave, the washing machine, the gas stove, the video games have contributed to a lazy lifestyle. One generation ago, our ancestors walked to and from the towns and cities out of necessity. There were no cars and buses, were far in between. Minivans were unheard of. Firewood was collected from the bush to chop into pieces for the kitchen fireplace before meals were cooked. Children played in the home environment with other kids. Games like pani, hide and seek, and he were commonplace games which our kids have not learnt. The wives with children in tow carried the household clothes to the nearby stream for washing and drying out on small shrubs on the stream banks. The kids swam, caught prawns, fish, or climbed nearby trees for mangoes, or even got their teeth into sugarcane stalks. Food was cooked over open fires with produce from the farm. There were no supermarkets loaded with canned or frozen food items. A jungly chook was a special meal. Frozen chicken was unheard of. Now, we all own our own vehicles and drive to the nearby store for our morning paper and bread. We all have our own gas stoves for cooking. Most washing and drying of clothes are done in machines. The children are proficient in Game Station 3 and Mortal Kombat on machines hooked to the TV. Eat snacks while watching TV instead of chewing sugarcane stalks. For treats, they end up at transnational food outlets for burgers, dripping in minced meat, cooked in fat, and spiced with salt. The drinks are fizzy and contaminated with sugars, sweeteners, and other addictive substances. Junk food, drinks, and snacks repeatedly advertised. Sports events sponsored by low-calorie or high-calorie, low-nutrient international vendors. Can we really blame the kids for being obese in their own steam? Let us review some of the other important factors in the obesity equation.
Many health problems are related to poor nutrition and have significant effects on the digestive system. Most of these health problems can be linked to the long-term consumption of sugary and fatty foods, increasing our risk of being overweight or obese. This risk starts before we are even born. When pregnant women consume unhealthy foods containing excess amounts of sugar and fat, they are more likely to have overweight children and develop associated health problems. A good start to nutrition for a baby is providing them with breast milk. This provides the best source of nutrients and reduces the risk of infection, digestive diseases, and obesity. Babies fed on high-protein formula milk are more likely to suffer childhood obesity and are at an increased risk of adult obesity too. Young children who get the right nutrition are 10% more likely to overcome life-threatening diseases, become healthier adults, and have healthier families. Childhood obesity is rising at an alarming rate, increasing by almost 40% in the last 25 years. If current trends continue, there will be approximately 70 million obese children worldwide by 2025. More worryingly, weight problems can be passed from generation to generation through our DNA, creating potential major health problems for future generations. So, healthy nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life, including breast milk and foods low in sugar, will help protect you, your children, and future generations from digestive and other health disorders.
We have with us Mrs. Elvina Deo from the National Food and Nutrition Center in today's program to discuss childhood obesity in Fiji. Welcome back, Elvina. And thank you for taking time available to discuss a very important subject, childhood obesity. Very topical, globally, and needing national effort on the part of parents, communities, and the health custodians in Ministry of Health to commit to a very worthy cause. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Just to start things off, how bad is childhood obesity in Fiji today?
Well, for childhood obesity, it's becoming a growing concern in the country. And with the latest numbers of the nutrition survey, we've seen that these numbers continue to increase in the last 10 years. And if children are obese at birth, there's a tendency for that obesity to continue in the primary school and secondary as well.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Deo. We will quickly go for a short break and be back for more interesting information on childhood obesity right after this. Welcome back to Bula Wellness on FBC TV. Today we have Mrs. Elvina Deo from the National Food and Nutrition Center, and today we are discussing childhood obesity. Elvina, we have been constantly heard and been seen messages regarding breastfeeding being the best source of baby nourishment. Why is this so?
Well, breast milk is specially formulated for each and every child, so it's different from one child to the other. And it contains all the nutrients and antibodies that the child needs. And it's perfect for both a preterm and a full-term baby. And it's easily digested and does not create more problems, something that formula milk does. And the best thing about it, it's free. So it becomes a complete food for the child.
So what you're saying is that mother's milk is meant for the baby, the cow's milk was meant for the cow.
Definitely,
cow's baby.
yes, sir.
When should babies be weaned, and what complementary items are added?
In fact, it's we've moved away from the term weaning. It's now to complement breastfeeding, because after 6 months, breast milk is not sufficient for the growing child. So after 6 months, usually the recommendation is that we need to complement that milk. So we can start with simple foods such as just mashed bananas and pumpkin or pawpaw, just to start the diet, and then continue building up to that until the child is able to eat family foods. But one of the things we need to keep in mind for complementary foods is not to add salt, sugar into their meal, especially salt, because by doing that we are giving that child an acquired taste of salt, so which leads to that little NCD problem beginning from the very early stages of childhood.
I think you made the position very clear. 6 months of breastfeeding totally?
Yes.
And then to continue breastfeeding for the further 18 months?
Yes.
And that you can complement or supplement, adding in food in a phased manner from 6 months onwards.
Definitely.
Thank you. Moving on, why is a home-cooked meal important for school children?
In terms of home-cooked meals, we know that it's freshly prepared, and we know what goes in there. So it's important, and plus home-cooked meals has less of those additives and other preservatives that ready-made foods contain. And plus you control what is being served to your child, and you have that self-satisfaction as well, that you are giving healthy foods to your children at home.
It's, the next question is very interesting. Why are moms not preparing school lunches for their kids?
Definitely it's interesting. It could be a lot of factors. One is that now both parents are working, so sometimes the shortcuts are taken where you rely on school lunches or takeaways to give to the child. And then the other issue is, like I mentioned, because of parents both working, there is less time given for preparing meals at home. So even dinner is compromised, where you would just have noodles or bread and tea. So similar things when you are getting late in the morning, you are just rushing. Sometimes children don't even have breakfast at home. So they're just given pocket money to buy along to their way to school. So that includes breakfast and lunch.
Okay. How can school canteens produce better quality food and snacks for our children?
There is a lot of ways that can be done. One is that we follow the school canteen guidelines that's in place. And the other is that you know how the food industry goes to their consumers and tries to know what their consumer needs are. So something similar, where in the school canteen, the school canteen operator can work with the whole school team, with the head of school, the manager, and as well as the students, to get to know what the child or the children like to prefer. So just a simple example where we see that canteen operators usually complain that, oh, I'm selling fruits, but it's not popular. But instead of just having whole fruits displayed, you could cut those fruits and put it in a nice small pretty container to attract that child as a fruit salad, or giving it fancy names. So to be a bit more creative, because children, they don't think about health. That's the last thing they think about. So it's more creativity and working together. I think that's how we can tackle school canteens.
I think you've answered it quite well. Just the other thought was that, you know, if parents took an active role in the school programs, in the canteen, to be able to positively input into quality of food.
Yes, and it's also that the holistic environment. So if children are learning in the classroom, it can be a class exercise as well. So you create a new tea item or a lunch item. So that can be a whole class activity.
Okay. Can public awareness and screening assist in arresting this major health issue from worsening in Fiji?
It can help the screening and awareness, but I believe that it's also the individual's choice. We can continue going to the community and talking about NCDs and about being healthy, but the main, like how we say, the buck stops at you. So the choice is the person. So if we are changing things, changing the environment for the person, if you are not choosing a healthier product, it's not going to help anybody. So to curb NCDs, I think it's the person needs to change. You need to change so that we try to be healthy for our own self.
Thank you. I think we come finally to any advice you may have for our viewers tonight, to parents especially, to guardians.
In terms of advice, in talking about childhood obesity, is children are our future. So if we are trying to protect our future, we show love to our children by giving them junk foods, and we are killing them instead. So if you want to show love to your child, you'll give them healthy habits, give them healthy foods, instead of giving them an early death by unhealthy foods.
Thank you for this most informative and educational interview. Thank you, Mrs. Deo.
Thank you, sir.
The lesson learnt is being on the extremes is not always beautiful in this day and age. More coming up after this. Today's session has focused on the worsening health issue of childhood obesity. In fact, this is also very important, as children today are the adults' population of tomorrow. How we groom them today will result in what they will be tomorrow. The seeds of non-communicable diseases are being laid in the uterus, infancy, childhood, and adolescence. As parents and adults, we need to become a lot more aware of health issues. Seek assistance from our healthcare providers if necessary. The question of feeding the children correctly is an important as much activity as it undertakes to remain healthy. Formula milk versus breast milk. Formula feeding of infants remains in vogue despite the Fijian baby-friendly status in hospitals, and the introduction of the Codus alimentarius of breastfeeding substitute advertising ban. For some mothers, there was a genuine medical reason. For others, it is a mere need to return to the work environment. For the rest, the message, breast is best, is only shape related rather than looking at the food value for their offspring. The rescinding of advertising food regulations 210 and the ready availability of formula milk is retrograde measure in promoting breastfeeding and plays into the hands of commercial distributors who have no interest in public health gains in our people. The struggle to raise breastfeeding rates to 51% over a decade will drop significantly with these regulation changes. Our hospitals may not remain baby-friendly for long. The organizers of baby shows like to show us the photos of obese, fatty kids who coo and gurgle from photos in the TV. The subtle message is big and heavier babies win the show. This is not true, as the seeds of NCD are laid in infancy and childhood. Early weaning of infants. Once infant weaning is commenced, we want to feed our children bottled food rather than nature's own. We offer tinned fruit rather than fresh, seasonal fruit. We offer the child canned custards, meat and poultry. We refuse to give them the taste of lentil soup and mashed rice with a little ghee. We feel sad to offer cassava, roro, boiled fish and vegetables. We feel poor when we offer them seasonal fruit, yet we buy imported apples and pears in syrup. Looking at school lunches, the introduction of the Health Ministry's canteen guidelines in school environment still has not impacted on correcting some of our people's thoughts and ideas, unfortunately. School lunches are left to the school canteen owners or the mothers' cooperative who have very limited ideas on nutrition. Fatty sausages, chips, mutton curry and rice are on the menu. Barbecue is fashionable and easy to prepare. Fruit and vegetables are nowhere to be seen or served only as side dishes. If the resourceful mom can have the commitment to roll the rotis early in the morning and get the curry prepared, then sometimes it turns out to be an all-out carbohydrate affair. Potato curry with roti. Eggplant curry and roti as a lunch wrap is becoming fashionable within all our communities. If we do not get stunted with this diet, then we surely are beating the physical milestones. How are the kids expected to perform miracles on this diet? The free milk initiative is to be applauded, but the milk should be served at recess. Weet-Bix can be replaced in the future with some local seasonal fruit. A home-cooked breakfast and a wrapped lunch is mandatory for every child. Canteens should ideally be run by the parents if we want quality, not food destroyed by the frying. The public must address firm controls on advertising of junk food and snacks. Improved health policies developed, implemented, monitored, re-evaluated for justification. There can be better understanding between all custodians of trade and public health issues if we want people to live healthy. International data and experience out of US and UK are frightening when a rather substantial number of adults are now grossly obese. We in Fiji are heading the same route if we do not act soon enough. Measures in school to provide wholesome meals, fruit and nutritious drinks can contribute to healthier lifestyles in the future. These issues are being addressed in developed countries. The issue of lifestyle cannot be resolved without parents taking on an active and informed decision on the issues of wholesome nutrition and an active lifestyle. We cannot shelve our responsibilities onto the poor teacher or the doctor and the nurse. As parents, we are the prime teachers of our children. Children learn by our examples. Incorporating wholesome, locally grown food onto the menu can go a long mile. Babies are best breastfed, weaned from the breast, delayed, and locally available alternatives to canned food actively sought. Better still, the concept of a green vegetable garden in every home will keep the kids involved and physically active as they see their vegetables grow. Little incentives can come in other forms rather than snacks and fat-dripping meat, burgers, fizzy drinks from our transnational conglomerates. Be active physically as a family. Lest we forget that the balance of the equation in obesity is increased activities in the form of exercise with wholesome, local and fresh nutrition. The home environment is the first school and parents are the first teachers. The school environment should provide more physically exacting activities like sports, physical exercises, gardening classes and possibly cadet training. A tailpiece to this saga, Supersize Me, is a movie to view. A certain type of burger meal was consumed for a month by a certain gentleman, and its gross effects on his health noted with a battery of medical tests and his account of his feelings. His weight went up, the fitness level plummeted, and the physical outcomes were obvious. We continue to fight the battle of the bulge. That concludes our program today. I hope you have enjoyed the program, and I hope you have learned a few things that could change or even save your life and those whom you love. Please make sure you share everything learned today with your family members, friends, peers, and even your workmates and colleagues. If you have queries about the show or the topic today, you can contact us on Facebook, Bula Wellness FBC TV, or write to us at bulawellness@fbc.com.fj. Make sure to join us again at the same time next week for our next episode. Until then, good night.